Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Name the dog, Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, the podcast where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my 2017 fresh friend, Frank. How are you today?
I'm good. Podcasts are built on beer.
They are built on beer. It's a liquidy foundation.
It really
One
is.
would say it's not the best. Yeah.
It works for us, though.
If Venice can do it, we can do it too.
Hey,
yeah.
That's right. Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year. You're too far away for me to clink early.
That is okay. We'll clink later.
Yeah. What are you drinking over there?
I am drinking this Weyerbacher Mary Monk's Belgian-style triple ale. And this is like my ideal beer, pretty much.
Yeah.
This is a Belgian triple.
That's why I bought it for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
I very much appreciate it. I love anything Belgian and triples especially, and if it has monks involved in it, it's probably pretty good. And this is great. This is really great. So thank you for picking this up.
You're very welcome. I'm drinking Bigelow's Green Tea, starting 2017
with a bang.
With a bang, with a mug of tea. You know what? I'm full from dinner, and I just didn't feel like a beer. I'll be honest.
More than fair.
I think 2017 is going to be the year of honesty.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Well,
that
sounds lame.
It does. 100% honesty is not a good thing, according to TARS from Interstellar.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. 90% is where you want to be.
It's a good place to be. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's at 90% in my book.
What?
Star Wars Rogue One.
It was pretty damn good.
It was pretty damn good.
So, you famously, especially for listeners of this show, you like Star Wars, but you prefer it from the fantasy angle, right?
I do.
And the Jedi angle,
Very
and
much.
the Force, and the. So, what did you make of this film that has no Jedi in it?
I really liked it.
Yeah.
I still really liked it because I still care about the rebellion and stuff like that, and some of my favorite characters are not Jedi or not Force users or stuff like that, but there was still some pretty awesome Force and lightsaber stuff
the
in
Force
here.
was still in it for sure.
So there was some pretty great stuff. There was some pretty great stuff in there. I liked, like, spoilers for the whole movie. I liked that Disney had the gall to make a Star Wars movie where every main character died. I know.
I was very impressed with that, and it turns out that it actually was the studio that suggested that. They were Gareth Edwards came in with the script and everything, and they were not going to kill everybody, and the studio actually said, "I feel like they all have to die for this to be meaningful,"
right?
Because he just wasn't expecting that Disney would be like, yeah, let's kill all the main characters.
Yeah, kids are going to go see this movie.
Right.
It's traumatic enough when Mufasa dies, but but to kill all of your characters,
heroes.
Like, yeah, here's this toy, but he's never going to hang around with Luke Skywalker. I can promise you that.
Right.
Unless they make a Princess Leia figure off of this movie. So I really like that. I think that all the characters served their purpose for the movie.
Yeah.
But I wasn't invested in them in a way like I'd want to see more movies with them. I think they all served their purpose. The only character that I actually really feel like I'd want to watch more of is K2SO.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And they could bring him back. There's a way that they could bring him back.
Sure. I mean, guess his body did get incinerated because the Death Star fired on the base.
True. But there was a moment where when he was reading the information off of the other unit that's just like him. I'm not sure what his type.
Yep.
K2 unit. I don't know what it is.
Sure.
I assume that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Like R2 unit. But so you could make the argument that maybe he like uploaded his consciousness into the network or something.
Oh,
and,
sure.
Whatever.
Sure.
But,
I guess so.
But yeah, me too. I think that's the one character I would really like to see come back. I mean, I really like Jin. I really like Cassian.
I really liked Cassian a lot, actually.
I like Cassian.
He probably had the most pathos, even though I think that maybe Jin was supposed to.
Yeah.
I think that he you could feel the weight of his responsibility, I think maybe more than any of the other characters.
I think kind of he was kind of mysterious because we didn't know his backstory.
Sure.
But he, in like one or two sentences, he said, like, this war has been happening since I've been 6.
Yeah, where he's been in it since he was 6 or whatever, yeah.
And you're not the only one who's lost everything or given everything up. Like,
right.
That's very powerful. It doesn't really tell you his whole story, but it gives you enough, and it gives you the impact.
Yeah.
And so it does a really good job of delivering that in a very concise way.
Yeah, I agree. I was really surprised. When the time that I thought that this movie is going to be different than other movies is when he shot the informant in the back.
Yeah, right up front, right in the beginning.
I like that the rebellion, I mean, still comes off strong, but this is the first time you've ever seen them do anything that's like not heroically noble,
right?
Where this is a war and they've done terrible things in the name of the rebellion because they are terrorists. I mean,
kind of. I mean, they happen to be on the right side, but their tactics are not really
right. Yeah,
necessarily lily white and clean,
right?
And not just like Cassian, sure, Cassian shooting that guy in the back is a really good indication of that. But even later when they're at the rebel base and they're all fighting and they can't agree, it's the first time we see any sort of conflict within the ranks of the rebellion.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Because
up till now, all we've seen in the original trilogy was just sort of like, we're all on the same side and we're all like perfect and like we're the good guys,
that's
the
true.
underdogs. But you actually see them like fighting amongst themselves and there's some disagreement and they can't agree on the direction that they should be going in and that kind of thing, which is more realistic.
Yes, incredibly more realistic.
Yeah.
So I liked that. Somebody said this to me and I thought it was really smart. So the Force Awakens was a movie that was like, and not to compare them because they're very apart from being Star Wars movies, they're very different movies. But the Force Awakens was very like, this is Star Wars. Look, you love Star Wars. Look at all the things that have Star Wars in them because this is Star Wars.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, and this felt like a movie that took place in the Star Wars universe.
Right.
Where so by doing that, it maybe felt more genuinely Star Wars, I guess.
Yeah.
Instead of like these are the things that about Star Wars that everyone loves and Star Wars and and this was a story that took place in that universe, and by doing that it created something special and maybe and certainly more original, I think, than The Force Awakens is.
Yep. I agree. I think the reason why Marvel has been very successful is because they do movies. They pick a genre. They make a Tom Clancy novel,
sure,
movie, whatever you want to call it, an action thriller, whatever you want to call that,
sure,
and they call it Captain America, the
Winter Soldier.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Captain America 2.
Yeah,
Electric Boogaloo. Yeah. So like they pick a genre and they set it in the Marvel universe, and they're doing the same thing here. They picked a genre and they're setting it in the Star Wars galaxy far, far away, and it works. It works because it's true to itself. Like, it's a story that we can kind of recognize and understand, but with all the trimmings and all the fun and adventure and everything else of Star Wars.
Sure.
So it's different. You're right. It's very different from Force Awakens in that sense, and I think that's one of its best traits is how it does that.
Yep.
It's not like, look at all the Star Wars. No, there was definitely some fan service.
Oh, certainly.
A good helping of fan service.
Hey, watch where you're going.
Yeah. I could have done without that dialogue, to be honest. Seeing Ponda Baba and Evazan was cool.
Yeah.
But a little more subtlety would have been nice.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of, maybe they really are wanted on 12 systems.
Clearly, right? Because that's another one of the systems.
They got off that planet fast. They were clearly headed to their ship to get off.
Clearly, yes. But there's that. Then there was R2 and 3PO showing up.
Sure, that didn't bother me because that's where they would be.
No, them being there did not bother me at all. Again, it was a dialogue. It was like cheesy. Like,
no one tells me anything.
Yeah, like it went a little one step over the line.
Going
like
to Scarif, no one tells me anything.
If he had just, if we had just seen them, or even if he had said something a little less over the top,
sure.
But 3PO is over the top, so.
Yeah.
So what do you want?
Yeah. It didn't. I liked it because they've now continued the tradition of being of every Star Wars movie.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah. I'll be really curious if we see them again in Young Han Solo, the next anthology.
That would be hard to pull off, I feel like. But I guess
I think so too.
He could stop off at some Imperial outpost, and there they could be. Like, who knows?
That's true.
I mean, there's always a way. Mm-hmm. There's always a way. But the same way that he wasn't in any of the prequels, maybe it makes sense to not have him cross paths with the droids sooner.
Han Solo, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows?
Woody Harrelson probably knows.
I really, this movie, Rogue One, I really think I think it added to A New Hope in a way that like the stakes of A New Hope now feel raised.
Yeah.
Because like you didn't know anybody on Alderaan. Technically, I mean, like you knew Senator Organa.
Yeah,
like,
but sort of.
It's sort of. His line when he was like, "I gotta go to Alderaan to tell people." Like,
yeah, like, oh, buddy,
forever.
Yeah,
yeah.
Don't go, bud.
Hello, secret camera. Yeah. And so, but it, like all to watch all of these rebels die,
yeah,
just to get the plans, to the rebellion. It makes it just feels like it's so much more important now what Luke does at the end of the film.
So much more important.
Even though you watch them blow up a planet.
Yep.
And I liked the one canon like detonation of the Death Star in this film too. Because it like you really could feel its destructive force because it was like dropping a nuke, or twice. Yeah. And so like if you could feel it more than watching a whole planet blow up. You know what I mean? Because you're in it, and it feels more dangerous that way than it ever does in A New Hope, which then makes it feel more dangerous in A New Hope.
Right.
Yeah, it's very good. All of it.
I've seen the film twice now.
Okay.
And the second time I saw it, I went straight home and put in my Blu-ray of A New Hope and watched A New Hope right after.
Did you skip the opening crawl?
No, I watched the opening crawl.
So you can just...
I watched the opening crawl, and I tell you what, I'm glad I did, because it really... Reading the opening crawl now of A New Hope is that much more impactful, because you literally are reading the like the summary of Rogue One. It is a period of civil war. The rebellion has earned its first victory against the evil Galactic Empire. I forget the exact wording for after that, but like like someone got the plans to the battle station, the Death Star, blah blah blah. Like all this stuff. Like you literally just the crawl tells you what happens in Rogue One, and it's so much more impactful to read that now after having watched Rogue One.
That's interesting. I have not watched A New Hope since watching Rogue One.
I would recommend it, because there were a few things that are sort of like, you look at a new light, you look at
you look at the Death Star meeting room, and there's an empty chair,
which someone pointed that out online. I was like, ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I liked little things.
That one feels coincidental to me, but I still like it. It's like in my head canon, I'm like, that was Krennic's chair.
But that's Krennic's chair. Forever, that is now Krennic's chair. Yeah.
I really liked even seeing Leia deliver the message to R2.
Yep.
There's a whole new meaning to that, because she talks about her father fighting in the Clone Wars and blah 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 and all this stuff, and you're like, and I just saw him 5 minutes ago,
and he talked to me about this message like 10 minutes before this.
Exactly.
I would trust her with my life.
Right.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
And they used Leia's theme as soon as he said that. It was just,
yeah. Since we're talking about Leia, let's talk about our CG resurrected characters.
Okay.
How did you like them?
So first viewing, I was a little like Uncanny Valley was really, really heavy for me the first viewing. I was like, oh man, I can feel like I'm watching a video game, like animatic, like, ugh, it's so close, but just so not there. So close, but for Tarkin and then especially for Leia, I felt like she didn't look really very good at all. But the second time watching it, now not like being so distracted by that and being like, oh my god, a dead person's on my screen, or
right,
like,
yeah. It's better the second time, right?
It was way better the second time.
Yeah.
I was like creeped out, like in a good way of like, oh my god, it's Tarkin. He's so scary.
Yeah. See, I felt that way the first time watching Tarkin.
Did you? Yeah.
But I felt what you felt watching Leia the first time. I was like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
And Carrie Fisher hadn't passed away yet,
Right.
Actually,
Right.
and
Same
so
for my first viewing too. Yeah.
And so it was a little different.
Yeah.
It's just that their mouths don't move
That's
correctly.
exactly it. That's exactly the one piece that they haven't mastered yet.
Yeah, because the eyes are real because they're another actor's.
real person.
They're mocapped actor. So like that's all true. But the mouth just doesn't move.
There's something about mouths that we just have not been able to nail down yet. I will say the only one that I felt so like people point to Robert Downey Jr. in Civil War, and I really feel like Michael Douglas in Ant-Man is the best.
That's the best one.
Absolute best. Like I thought it was makeup. The first time I saw the movie, I thought that it was makeup.
Yeah, I think his is the best. But it's also Michael Douglas playing himself.
Sure.
Robert Downey Jr. was shiny, and I think that's like the thing that in Civil War, I think that's one of the things that threw me.
For me, it was more the mouth. The mouth like didn't move exactly right.
Yeah.
But and he played himself.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So like the de-aging thing, I expected to be better than the recreation of a dead person. So I thought, I mean, it was not Carrie Fisher on set.
No, it wasn't.
It was another actress who they swapped out her face.
Yep.
So I guess they really used the same technology used for Tarkin. They recreated a person from whole cloth. But had that been a de-aging, maybe it would have been better. Maybe it would have looked better. But Tarkin, I thought, was real. And even rewatching, Leia was not quite there. But on second viewing, Tarkin looked phenomenal to me. Once I wasn't distracted anymore.
My second viewing, I think, I went with my sister and her husband, who have seen Star Wars, but they're not like Star Wars. We have to watch the Star Wars,
right?
And so I didn't say anything before the movie. And so after on our way out, I said, "What did you think of Governor Tarkin?" And they were like, "He was fine." Why? And I was like, "Well, he's dead. He's a CG character," and they were floored. They had no idea, at all.
Yeah.
And even Leia, my sister, was like, I couldn't figure out why Carrie Fisher looked that way. And so like it just didn't occur to them. Because why would they wouldn't know that if that Peter Cushing has passed away in the 90s? Why would they know that?
Right.
And so so I think it's unsettling for people who know it's a dead man on screen. Like he's not alive anymore and we're watching him again say new things, and that can be, I think that's the unsettling part.
I agree.
But they had no idea. To them it was just
it seems like that's a common thing.
Just an actor.
People who didn't know that he passed, people who were not that big Star Wars fans, just thought like, oh, I thought they just recast somebody, or I thought that they just got him to come back. Like didn't
so
realize.
It really has gone past Uncanny Valley.
It's gone just enough past it, but it's still like, if you know, you can see it.
Yes, you can see. Yeah, if it's pointed out to you, you can understand. But
if you don't know, like if it doesn't even occur to you that maybe they would need to make this person digital, it'll go right by you.
Yeah.
And the second time, I certainly could tell why people were not noticing.
My second time, I saw it in 3D, and I actually think they looked better in 3D.
No, I disagree. But
really?
my first time I saw it in 3D, so
okay.
I had
maybe it was just because it was the second time.
Yeah.
Then
it could be.
Yeah. Things that didn't quite settle right. Let's also talk about Vader. Once we're talking about things from previous things.
So
I know it's James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
But it
doesn't sound the same.
It doesn't sound the same. No, he's too old.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. He's too old. And I think that, either they could have done some stuff. I feel like they could have done something in post to match.
I agree.
The pitch and the timbre of how he sounded in A New Hope. At the very least,
I agree.
And either they just weren't able to because he just doesn't sound the same anymore, and it just was not much they could do.
Yep.
But if they could bring back Peter Cushing, I feel like they can make him sound the same. So
yeah,
I don't know what happened there, but that was distracting to me.
Yeah,
that was distracting when he spoke. I was like, oh,
it's not quite. It's actually. It was. I found it more distracting. I found it more distracting than Peter Cushing or anything like that. Yeah,
I kind of did too.
Yeah, just because it just. It is the same when he was on Rebels. Same thing when he voiced him on Rebels. I'm like, they just don't sound the same.
It didn't bother me as much there.
Yeah, maybe because he was animated.
Because it's animated, and like all the voices are different people. Like even like Yoda's a different,
that's true,
a different voice, and they have Tarkin on that show, and it's a different voice. Like, impersonators, people who sound pretty similar, but stylized.
Yeah.
So it didn't bother me that much because he sounded more like Vader than any of the others sound like their.
That's true.
Characters.
That's a good point.
So it didn't bother me as much there, but here where they were making such an effort to make everything match up so beautifully. That was one thing that did kind of take me out. And I've heard other people disagree. Other people say, oh, man, he still got it. And I'm like, all right, you think so. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, and I settled into it, I think. Yeah. But that second, it just, his voice doesn't match how he moves because he moves like a young man or a man in his 40s or whatever. But his voice does not. But, that's so nitpicky on
it's
our
such
part.
a nitpicky Star Wars fan thing to say. Like, it really is.
Yeah.
I'm aware of it. Too.
Yeah. So let's talk about things that are not nitpicky. How awesome was it to visit Vader's castle? Something that they've been toying with going to since the 80s.
Yeah.
I loved that. I was sitting with Damon, sometimes show host Damon, and the first viewing, and I Mustafar showed up on the screen, and I start hitting him. I'm like, it's freaking Mustafar, and he's like, what? Like, what are you?
What is that word you keep saying?
Yeah, I loved it. Just whether it's the Emperor being like, you stink, and you need to live here. Yeah, Vader, I can't lift my arms, but if I could point in a good direction, it would be there over at that planet, Mustafar. I loved that. There's some concept art that's there's ancient Sith caves underneath his castle, which is just like ostentatious, just really. It's a castle. It's not even like a futuristic skyscraper or a house.
Castle.
It's literally just a giant castle, and I love it. Kind of like Oz or something like that.
Yeah.
Minas Mongol from Lord of the Rings, just like one of any of those places. It's great. Did you like his dad joke?
It didn't bother me. I didn't even think of it as a dad joke until I came out of the movie, and I saw it a few days. I had been out of the country. I came back and I saw it. So I was avoiding it all online. I was avoiding all online mention of the movie. I didn't look at any social media or anything.
Yep.
So I came back and I opened the floodgates and started reading all the articles and listening to podcasts, and I kept hearing the mention of the dad joke, and I was like, I didn't really think of it as a dad joke.
I did. Yeah.
I guess it kind of was, but
I'm fine with it, but it felt like it was a dad joke.
It seemed it seemed fitting, and it seemed in line with
apology accepted.
Apology. That's
accepted
exactly.
Captain Nita.
Apology accepted. Captain Nita was the one that came to mind.
But Captain Nita dies.
He dies. But it felt very much in the same line as that, so it didn't bother me in the slightest until someone else pointed it out.
Yeah, I think it's let's say the Captain Nita apology accepted Captain Nita, and he's dying on the floor.
Right.
That's ironic.
Yeah.
It's situational irony. Oh, he's killing you while he says apology accepted. That's kind of funny. But this was it's a pun. And there's a difference between making an ironic statement and making a pun. Like I said, I'm fine with it. It's just I'm choking you.
Don't
choke on your own aspirations because you can't breathe.
It just doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I said, it doesn't bother me either. But I understand. It did the first time. I was
noticed it.
I was like, well, that doesn't sound. But I'm already sitting in a place where I'm like, he doesn't sound quite right.
Yeah, true.
He sounds a little older, and now he sounds like a dad.
Maybe that's why I was just so distracted by his voice sounding different that I didn't even care about what he was saying.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know, but second time it's literally bothered me.
But worth it for the last 5 minutes of this movie.
Oh man, so those last 5 minutes of the film, I mean. Oh, so we see all of our heroes die. and like
tragically,
in a nuclear explosion.
They all get a moment.
They all do.
Yeah,
they
which I really like.
Even K2SO gets his moment. Like Baze, Chirrut, all of them.
So
Bodhi, they all get a moment of glory.
So when I'm sitting next to my sister watching this movie, K2SO dies, and she goes, and at that moment, it dawned on her that they're all going to die.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people said.
She was like, I am not okay with what
Yeah.
I'm about to watch. Because it kind of hit me then, too. I wasn't really thinking about it.
Me neither.
Like, I had assumed, then forgot, and it didn't matter. But then when he died, I was like, oh my God, right, they're all going to die.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really think that Disney would do it. So
I sort of assumed they would all die.
I assumed
and then kind of forgot about it, like you said. And so it didn't necessarily surprise me, but I wasn't like shocked, but I was like surprised in the sense that like I'm surprised they had the nerve to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they did because it meant more. It honestly meant more.
Yeah, I agree.
Most of all for Jin, who obviously we were meant to identify with the most, and who we saw more of her story and her parents dying and all of that. So to see her die when she's only like 22 years old.
I think she's older than that.
I don't think so.
Yep, because she was
16 when
she was 16 when she left, and she hasn't seen him in 15 years, so she's 31.
No, that wasn't 15 years, but no, 15 years since her father was taken away from her, but not 15 years since she saw Saw. It's only been like 6 years since she saw Saw.
Oh, I heard that wrong.
Yeah.
In the movie. Okay.
Yeah, I heard someone discuss it and kind of pick it apart, and they did the math, kind of like we did on Supergirl.
Right.
Carl was. They did the math, and she's like 22, 23.
Oh,
so she's a young woman.
That's a very yeah.
But like who didn't care, and ultimately ends up putting her life on the line and sacrificing her life for this cause that she didn't care about at the beginning of the movie.
Right. It was a harrowing couple of days for her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But after seeing all this happen, then we get like the final 5 or 10 minutes are just beautiful. Like that probably felt the most like Force Awakens-ish in that it's like, look at all the Star Wars we're gonna throw at you now.
Uh-huh.
But like so good.
Yeah.
Like so good.
Well, so all their deaths and all of that were very well done. I liked the time on the beach with Cassian, and I liked that there was like there's no kiss or anything like that.
I love that there was no kiss.
Yeah, it's just they were there and present for one another.
Yes.
It was very beautiful.
Yes.
And all of that. And then so everyone's like, we're out of here. The Winston Churchill, Mon Calamari, who was based on Winston Churchill.
I know, I heard that. Yes. And he was voiced by the guy who voices Tarkin on Rebels.
Oh,
Steven Stanton.
Steven Stanton. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So all that's well. All of that is well and fine. And then there's like, we're out of here, and then they just all smash into Vader's Star Destroyer.
That was actually a good,
great.
It was like kind of comical, but also not. But like, it was. Yeah, it was a weird.
You're so close.
Yeah, it was such a weird moment.
So close. I do love that meme online. I didn't send you the exact meme, but I sent like the real reason Vader didn't fight in the Battle of Scarif, and it's just, I hate sand.
Oh,
it's
it gets
coarse
everywhere.
and rough. It gets everywhere. So good.
So good.
So good.
So good.
But I love that, like, down on the punch, we gotta go.
Yeah.
But you heard for 3 movies why Darth Vader was something to be feared.
Right.
Why everybody was afraid of Darth Vader. But all you really saw him do was fight an old man, choke a bunch of people that couldn't defend themselves, and then fight a kid.
Yeah.
And then fight a kid again.
Right.
But nobody saw those.
Right. Right.
So, this is the first time that like you saw why people are actually afraid of Darth Vader.
I agree. I think other than, because you also
Revenge of the Sith doesn't count because he's not broken then.
Yeah, it's true. I was gonna say when he kills like all the kids he kills all the younglings, but
sure, but but that's
and you don't even really see that.
That's why he's evil.
Yeah.
But not why people are afraid of him.
This was like every Star Wars fan's like dream. Like it felt like something, and I mean this in a good way. It felt like something out of a video game.
Yep.
But like in the good way.
Yeah.
Where like, oh my god, like this is just Vader unleashed. Like this is just Vader. It was I fanboyed out so hard.
He was merciless. He doesn't stop walking
Not-
either,
no-
which is what I
doesn't
thought.
break his stride.
No, not once does he stop until he gets to the edge of space.
Right.
Like to the I literally cannot walk anymore unless I'm going to walk into space.
Which was so badass.
Yeah.
Like just to be standing there and watch the Rebel Blockade Runner like drift off. Like that was so cool.
Yeah. And know what I think is so good about that scene is that you know the plans are going to Princess Leia,
But it's still there's a suspense.
But there's so much tension right in that 2 minutes.
Yeah.
that it takes for all of it to unfold. Just kills like 12 guys.
Yeah.
Like
He just mows them down.
and just without like it's great choreography because he's like, I'm not stopping,
It
can't
was
stop me.
Masterful.
Yeah.
Masterful. I could watch that scene on a loop for for a while. Like that was so good.
I would be terrified of Darth Vader as a kid if I saw that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Just like the breathing with the lighting up of the saber, and
That was incredible. Like seeing that light up the whole hallway.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. It is exactly like a video game
It's
in
what
the
we,
best way.
It's what we always wanted, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then that ending of just like seeing it, all the loose ends tie up and Leia and everything. Beautiful, masterful. 10-4 dropping out and
that was very
and
very
flying
nice.
off. Just
what did you think of Krennic?
I liked him. He was a more complex Imperial officer than we've ever seen, right? We followed him more and got more of his motivations.
He had
and everything.
ambitions.
Yeah.
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 We've never really seen that before, except for Tarkin.
No.
Really.
And really, this movie gave us more of Tarkin's ambitions than we had ever had before.
Yeah. You may fire when ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we have a more complete picture of Tarkin now than we had before.
I agree.
So this actually filled in his story too. But yeah, I agree. He had more motivations than we've ever seen, and I liked him. I thought he was a pretty good villain.
I actually expected more.
I kind of
from
did
him.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. Just little things from trailers or whatever else. It was that scene on the battle of Scarif with him walking in the water with his cape leading behind.
It didn't end up in the movie.
Yeah, right. Which is fine. A lot of that happens a lot. And sometimes I'm okay with it, and sometimes I'm not. Like if the movie is still extremely satisfying, like this one was, I'm fine. I don't need to see any of that. But when the movie is like just okay, then it's like, well, what happened to all that other stuff that you promised me? Because maybe that would have been better.
Admittedly, though, that happened more with this film than most other films I've seen.
Yeah,
and it's drawn a lot of attention. From people who were watching the trailers closely.
Yeah,
and even the first time I saw it, it bothered me a little bit, or I noticed, let's say, a little bit. There were moments where I was like, wait. Okay, but like she's up on that tower now. Isn't she going to go out and like see the TIE fighter?
Well,
that turns out that was like test footage.
It was test footage, yeah. Which is like, but because the marketing is like, I don't care what's in the movie. I have to sell the movie.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And that happened. That happens with every movie. There's always stuff that gets cut. Force Awakens, same thing. Any movie you can think of, pretty much there's stuff that gets cut that's not in there, or they use an alternate take, or like, oh wait, I thought he said this line a different way. There's always that kind of thing. But it just happened a little bit more with this movie because of the extensive reshoots. There was more to be left on the cutting room floor that then was used in marketing.
Yeah.
Interesting. My understanding is, there's a lot of shots of Jyn running with the tapes.
Yes.
Running on the ground, right? And as we know, in the final cut, she doesn't make it to the ground. She stays up there in the tower.
She stays in the tower. Yeah.
So apparently, in the original version, the tower where they were going to transmit it from was on a different part of Scarif. So they had to retrieve the tapes and then run and like make it to the other side of the city or whatever.
Gotcha.
And transmit it from there. So that's why there's so much footage and so many images of her running like on the ground fighting with the tapes. They changed that. I guess they felt like it needed to be all in one place for time reasons.
Just time reasons. Yeah. Construction makes sense. Yeah. Or also, why wouldn't you have it in the same place just from an architecture standpoint?
Yeah. Gareth Edwards said that there were third act problems in the original cut, and that's why they did so many reshoots.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you like that the planet had the Scarif had a whole planet shield like Spaceballs?
I was a little confused by that at first, honestly. Because the shield generator, it looked like the shots they were choosing to show of it, it looked like that was the entire shield, and I was like,
I agree.
Why are we freaking out about this tiny little area when you
agree.
could fly around it? I don't get. And then it was only like the second time that I was like, oh wait,
it's the whole planet.
Oh,
yeah,
they did not make that very clear.
I was also confused by that. My second time viewing, I was like, that's what the Trade Federation needed.
Right?
Yeah. It needed
Seriously,
that thing.
Yeah, that's what it needed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the second time I got it. Maybe I was a little slow on the uptake there, but
No, I was with you though. I was also confused.
The second time I actually noticed the shot where you could see the shield around the whole planet. And I was
Sure.
okay. Now I'm with you. Mm-hmm. There was a little bit of like, the shield stops the transmissions, but not all the transmissions, and only some of them. And
it's a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's fine. I think the movie meandered a bit in the middle. Like the scene with I don't remember the name of the planet, but the storm planet where her dad dies.
Yeah.
I felt like I was kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, let's get a roll on.
Yeah.
I do think that the opening of the movie is great. Yeah.
With little girl Jin.
Yeah. I think that was. You get absorbed into the landscape and into the situation so very quickly. I really enjoyed that. And that's where I really thought Krennic was going to be kind of like a force to be reckoned with, but he never really was. Even his death was kind of like,
Yeah.
He felt like I'm gonna get down and dirty and like do it myself.
Yep.
And he wasn't.
Yeah. My understanding is if you read Catalyst, that there is more backstory on Galen and on Krennic.
Yeah.
And that you understand more, and that the movie, it fills in some blanks and paints a better picture of those characters. Sure. But I agree with you that the movie should have been a little more self-sustaining in those ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Well, I really enjoyed the movie. I didn't know quite what to think going into it. The original initial trailers, remember like last year in Good Morning America, like a trailer debuted and stuff, that got me excited, but I was like, wow, this really looks like a war movie. I'm not sure I'm like ready for this to be a straight up war movie.
Yeah.
And clearly they backed off from that a little bit, and made it a little bit more about the characters and less like, like straight up, like just blood and gore and bombs falling. There was a good deal of that, and the stuff was great. The fights were great. The dog fight between
real good
the Empire and and seeing Red Leader and Gold Leader was really cool.
Oh, that was a great use of footage because they were reams. And I'm reading the George Lucas A Life now, the biography, and they talk about how much extra footage he actually had of the dogfight in A New Hope, like reams and reams and reams of takes of them just saying literally anything possible because the effects weren't done
right,
and so they like had the actors say anything they possibly could to then mix with the effects later. And so there's so much stuff of Red and Gold Leader. I like that Red 5 died to give Luke a place spot for Red 5.
Yes. Yeah, I thought that was really, really, I noticed that, and I was like, I feel like not a lot of people notice Red and Gold Leader.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a subtle one.
Yeah.
You had to really have seen
Star Wars
500 times to recognize their faces.
Stay in attack formation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that was really nicely done.
I did see somebody that was like, where was Portkins?
Where was Portkins?
Where was
Red 6? Yes, where was Biggs?
Yeah.
No, I heard
my question was Biggs. That was actually my, where was Biggs?
Mine was Portkins.
Yeah.
Mine was Portkins, yeah. But yeah, what can you say? What can you do?
What can you do?
They weren't there. And then I was like, Blue Squadron? Why? There's no Blue Squadron. What? Oh,
yeah.
They're all about to die.
Yeah.
Like I only remember a red and a blue.
I liked some of the Rebels, the show. I liked some of the little references to them. You could see you could see the ghost a couple times.
I didn't even notice it. Yeah,
I had to look for it the second time.
I had to look for it. Yeah, and Chopper you could see.
Yeah, you can see Chopper in the background.
Yeah, I didn't notice those without being prompted.
Yeah,
I had to be
the Hammerhead Corvette.
Oh yes.
I did. I never saw the episode, but I know that's a reference to because there's a whole episode of them stealing that ship to now use it in here, which was cool.
Yep.
It's good. Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah, great
those
stuff.
Those are more subtle. Those are more of like what I would sort of hope for. So anyway, those I really enjoyed the movie a lot, and it sounds like you did too.
Yeah, I did. I really did. I did.
Cool.
Yeah. So you can find us at beerwithgeeks at Gmail and Facebook and Twitter. And you can rate and review us on iTunes and Google Play and Satchel and Overcast and all other places that
Kick off the new year.
Podcasts are found. Kick off the new year by giving us a review.
Give us a review. Start us off with a strong start.
Yeah. So any final thoughts on Rogue One?
I think I've said all I've got to say for now.
Well, good stuff, my friend.
All right.
So until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.